Welcome to the Men of the Times podcast with Justin and T. We are talking about the Trump indictment right now. A lot of things have been going on, and you and I have some differing opinions on this, which is why we want to talk about it.
Okay.
We have some, I think, just some disagreements that
Yeah.
might be interesting ideas for people to consider. For those of you who might be living under a rock, what has currently been going on is that former President Donald Trump, if you weren't aware, had relations with one Stormy Daniels,
He
and
denies
then
it. And she actually signed a letter saying it didn't happen. But anyway.
okay,
Common
I'm
sense.
just making the claim of what is
Common
going on.
sense, he probably boned her because it's Donald Trump.
Right. And I mean, she does have big knockers, so we all know he's into that.
He loves his buxom
He
blondes.
loves-
that she is right up his alley.
Boom,
He is definitely a man of a type, and she
Yeah.
fits the type.
But Melania is the exact opposite. Like
Well,
skinny,
out
very tan.
of all of the women he's been involved with, like Melania is the one most unlike his type.
Right.
But if you look at Ivanka, Tiffany's mother, I forget her name now, they were always kind of big titty blondes.
Yeah.
He loves his big titty, all American blondes.
I love big titties.
Yeah.
Give me that Hawaiian punch.
We all know our bros.
45 and 2 zigzags.
We all have types. His type is big titty blondes. The big titty all American girl.
There's nothing wrong
And there's
with
nothing
an
wrong with that
all-American
at all,
big titty
at
blonde
all.
woman.
Absolutely.
God bless you. So anyway, allegedly had relations with Stormy Daniels, and apparently she was paid some hush money to keep it all quiet during the electoral process. And there's some allegations that there was campaign funds that were used.
Like he didn't realize if she spreads her legs, she's probably not going to close her mouth. But that's
right.
That's just common.
That's
just common sense.
Just because one thing stays closed doesn't mean the other thing.
He's going to say closed. Absolutely.
And if one thing opens, the other is more also likely to open. Key tip for you fellas out there and ladies. So, anywho, this is the allegations. So the district attorney in New York, forget his name.
Alvin Bragg.
Thank you. Bragg. Good old Bragg. I'm bragging about putting Trump in the indictment process. So, yeah, he indicted Trump from a federal grand jury. Just so you know, indictments...
No, this is a district. It's a state crime.
Oh, state crime, sorry.
Yeah.
Not federal.
He's the district attorney for
the state of New York.
And Manhattan. State of New York.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Anyway, Fort Bragg has decided to put Trump into their deepest, darkest dungeon, or try to. Just so you're all aware about indictments, just because somebody gets indicted doesn't mean anything's actually going to really happen. It just is a formal process in the legal system to where a grand jury has said there's enough evidence to potentially charge somebody with a crime. Yes, that's all that really means. In many instances, indictments get dropped, which would be very interesting, wouldn't it? If all of a sudden the charges got dropped. And we'll get into that in just a minute. But that's basically what's going on. So Trump was in Florida, and then he went up to New York, and then he went to the courtroom to hear about the charges, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. So that's where we stand today. And there's a big hullabaloo in the media, and everybody, oh, this is a sad day. This is a sad day.
Oh, whatever. They were having a circle jerk. They were all wanting this for years now. It was ridiculous.
It's a sad day as they smile.
Yeah,
on camera.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I'm pretty sure nobody really thinks it's a sad day. It's either a day of jubilation for some people or a day of comedy for everybody else. Maybe a day of mourning for the real Trump supporters. But I think, if anything, they're just more emboldened. It was more of a rallying cry than a day of sadness. So saying it was a sad day about anything is all a bunch of hoop-de-doo. And you can use that word if you like, hoop-de-doo. So anyway, you have some strong thoughts about this, and I have some strong thoughts about this. And if memory serves me correctly, please share your side of it. But if what I recall you saying was that you were afraid that they're going to actually take Trump to court and he might actually go to prison, and that the bigger premise of this was that this is an open door and setting a precedent so that anybody can now start going after any political rival in the United States, which is
For
akin to
weaponizing the criminal justice
Russia and
department. Yes,
Iran and all these
yes, yes.
other, third world countries that
Very much
just
so.
imprison their political leaders. I completely disagree with you and don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's just because it's Trump, it's Trumpy, Trump, Trump, Trumpy, Trump, Trump, and Trump is the ratings, and all the ratings have been going down without Trump, and we just need to get Trump in there because Trump is a ratings master. Even when he's not doing anything, just saying the name Trump will get you views and ratings and attention, and everybody needs attention these days in America. So, yeah. So I'm curious to hear why you still believe this isn't setting a bad precedent, and that this is now going to mean that in every single state, people are going to just start imprisoning their political rivals.
Well, um, I think it's an awful precedence because for the first time in this nation's history, you are using the criminal justice system and the legal process to attack and it potentially attempt to imprison political rivals because Donald Trump this is why in the whole course of this nation's 250-year history no president who frankly has committed worse offenses than Donald Trump has ever been indicted because of how divisive it would be for the country. And contrary to a lot of what Democrats and Trump detractors may like to accept, he was the president of the United States, and what you're essentially doing here is yeah, like I said, it's the weaponization of the criminal justice system to attack and imprison political rivals, which has never been attempted before in this nation's history. And he's not just a former president; he is the front runner even before
But
all
is he
this,
though?
he was, yes.
Is
He
he though?
yes, he
His
was.
numbers actually went up after the
Well, no,
indictment.
but his numbers were already
Actually, he got better ratings than Biden.
but his numbers were already at least 10 points ahead of DeSantis before this happened. So for all intents and purposes, he was the front runner of one of the two major parties in this country.
Okay, but is it okay? Here's an interesting thing. Is it really the Democratic strategy to actually indict Trump? Because even MSM media, people on even on MSNBC and CNN, we're all saying that this case is pretty BS.
Yeah,
So
of
is it
course.
really the Democratic strategy to actually try and imprison Trump?
Yes.
Or what
Yes.
I believe it to be is they want to actually boost Trump
Yeah.
so that they will eventually drop the
Yeah, it's
charges, which is
both.
typical
It's
of
it's
indictments.
it's it's a mixture of
His base
both.
will be radicalized. He'll
Yeah.
end up winning the Republican primary because we all know they don't want to
Yeah.
face somebody who's actually credible, like a DeSantis or a Nikki Haley or something like this, because they would mop the floor with Biden because he can barely pull sentences together, let alone know if he's alive. So it's like I think their actual strategy. I don't think it's actually setting a precedent at all. I think they're just going
I think
after
it
Trump
is.
because it's Trumpy, Trumpy, Trump, Trumpity, Trumpity, Trump, Trump, Trump. We want to get Trump. It's just all about Trump. I don't think they would be doing this to anybody else really. Um,
Yeah, but that
but I
that but
think
that's another ugly, really ugly precedent that's being set. If you look at all of these prosecutors, whether it's the DA in Georgia, Alvin Bragg himself, the Attorney General in New York, Letitia James, right, who actually dragged him back to New York this week for a deposition in a civil case in which he's claiming like I think like $250 million in damages from the Trump organization for apparently inflating the value of their properties in tax filings, which is actually a pretty common occurrence for businesses, right? all of these people, what did they all promise in their election bids for their positions, whether it was a district attorney or attorney general? They all said, "We're gonna get Trump. We're
Get
gonna
Trump.
we're gonna get Trump." And do you know who
We
exactly?
promised to Trump
And do
Lamberts.
you know exactly what that kind of mindset reminded of me of?
Mm,
Who that
mm,
reminded me of?
mm.
I've done a short on him, Lavrenti Beria, one of the most evil men in human history. He was the chief of Stalin's NKVD from 1941 to 1953. He was his longest serving NKVD chief, and he's the only one who actually survived him, right? And he stated to Stalin,
Did he though?
he did,
Oh yeah, no, no. But then he died. Then
barely,
he died.
barely, but then
Yeah,
he
yeah.
completely underestimated Khrushchev, and Khrushchev ended up. But
Right.
anyway,
Yes. Yes.
but he said, "Show me the man, I'll find you a crime." That mindset of I'm gonna look into you. I don't. I'm not even gonna see if there's. I'm not gonna go from the way our judicial system, our criminal justice system works is is a crime, and then you follow the facts of that crime to wherever those facts may lead to. You don't just go to an individual and say, your last name is Trump. Therefore, I'm going to pull the full weight and all the resources
Well,
of my
but
governmental
okay, but
office to
you're
look
forgetting that
into
they are
every
starting
element
with
of his
they're
life.
starting with a crime
And
though.
what crime is that?
Using political campaign funds to
That's not a
use as
crime.
hush
That's not a
money.
crime.
I
No,
think
no,
it
no,
is
no,
a
no, no, no,
crime.
no, 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 it's not.
That is definitely
No,
a
no,
crime.
it's a crime, but this
Okay, so it's a
specific
crime.
act is not a crime in and of itself.
I'm pretty sure it's a crime,
No, but let's look into the history of this accusation, right?
but it's very, very
No,
weak.
no, no, no. Let's look
There's
at
very weak
no, but
evidence
okay.
for this
So
crime.
no, 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 no. But
No, no, no.
let's look into the actual history of this accusation, right?
Mm.
Because this accusation has been hanging around for what, fucking 7 or 8 years now,
It's been
right?
around. It's been around. That's for sure.
So think of it this
I feel
way.
like a little kid with my feet dangling like this. All right.
Okay, so the federal attorney for the Southern District of New York, he turned down prosecuting Trump on this because the case was weak. Alvin Bragg's predecessor, the district attorney, he turned it down because this is not a crime. Because the presidents for this issue. No,
Are
no.
you?
Well, let me finish. Let me finish. Because I'm trying to explain the legalese of this charge. Okay. So the presidents of this issue about using campaign finance funds to pay off a mistress or whatever was actually set with a guy called John Edwards, who was one
Right.
of the Democrat nominees for president
Right.
2004, 2008. Long story short, he knocked up his camera woman at the same time that his wife was dying of cancer.
A little bit of a
Yeah.
interest.
And so
Oh my god.
he used
I
donations.
can't be screwing my wife. She's dying of cancer. So hey, lady, you wanna?
Y- Yeah, but
We could use the
essentially,
camera a different
so
way.
what he did
God, what a tool.
so what he did was he used donations, had his accountants write them off as legal fees, and to pay her to keep her up in a lifestyle while she had this baby, and he was
Hmm.
campaigning. And they took that to trial. It came out in a hung jury because his defense was, I was just doing what my lawyers told me to do. Okay. So what Alvin Bragg has done here, right? Because election finance law is actually a federal offense. It's not a state offense because Donald Trump was taking part in a federal election, right? And so the Southern District of New York on the federal level turned this down because he said this is bullshit, this is nothing there, using the Edwards case as a precedence because you inherited our common law system, so you follow the common law trends, right? So what Alvin Bragg did, and it's really rather gross and desperate, right? So what he said to turn on a state level, so at a state level, this offense has a 2-year statute of limitations. And obviously this offense occurred in 2016, so the time has run out. So what he did was he stated that this was a crime because it was in the servants of a larger federal crime, that being federal finance law that the federal district attorney refused to prosecute. So he's saying this is crime in the furtherance of another crime that he then doesn't state in the actual indictment. So you have 34 counts, because apparently he paid Stormy Daniels over 34 installments. All right. So that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? That sounds like 34 counts, right? But it's not. It's just 34 installments of the 150 fucking grand he paid her.
Yes, yes. That part is
It's
that
not
part
at
is
all.
the funniest part.
And
We got him 34
and
times for the
every
same
count.
time,
No,
that
no, no,
one time with the one thing.
Justin. This is what's amazing about it.
Math.
Every 34 count says that they're charging him for a crime that was committed in furtherance of another crime, but they can't actually name that crime. They're claiming because he was never convicted of a crime or prosecuted for a crime. So
Right.
they actually asked him, they asked this guy, they asked him in the press conference, what is the crime you're actually charging Donald Trump with? And he couldn't say it because there isn't one. It's incredible.
It is
It's incredible.
it is a crime technically, but because of the lack of evidence that supports it, it's not something that's
There's
realistic,
no,
which I agree
but
with.
the only reason
It is a crime to use political campaign distribution to do these types of things. That is a crime. But in this particular, and that's all I was trying to say. In this particular instance, though, it's not really a crime
no, it's not at all.
because
But the only
because
reason
there's not
he's
enough sufficient.
yes.
But now the grand jury
So
has
no,
said that there is sufficient evidence. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
but you have to put that in context as well. Like this for me can easily be struck down in any appeal, even if he is convicted on on one theory alone, and that's jury nullification. We've all heard of jury nullification before in the history of American jurisprudence. It's basically when people go back and say, let's say the Jim Crow South days, right? And they could never get any of these Klansmen on state crimes because no juror in that state was actually going to convict them of it. That's exactly what's happening here. Where is this? Manhattan. 90% registered Democrat. It's gonna be a jury pool full of absolute Trump hating liberal Manhattan Democrats. Who all you need to do is say the name Trump and they're like, guilty, guilty, fuck Trump, yeah, Trump. Like they will not have a
They have
reasonable.
Trump Tourette's.
Yes, absolutely. They will never have a reasonable.
Trump, 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 oh, fuck Trump. And we may have loved him in Manhattan for 20 years, but fuck Trump.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they cannot be reasonable about this man. They can't. And Trump's only hope in this state crime is to somehow try and get this moved to another district, say upstate New York or Staten Island, but he is screwed in Manhattan because even Michael Cohen's lawyer testified in this grand jury that Michael Cohen was lying. And Michael Cohen is also a convicted perjurer. So you have the word of a convicted perjurer, which also makes me question Donald Trump's judgment of some of the people he's had around him. And Stormy Daniels, a porn star slash escort, whose previous lawyer, Michael Avenatti, who made these original accusations, is now doing 20 to life for trying to extort Nike. Okay? These are hardly reputable people. But the people who live in the district of Manhattan are not gonna. They're not gonna be able to look past this. All they're gonna see is that last name Trump, and they're just gonna be like, "Get him, get him."
Okay, but that still goes. Okay, that's great. It still goes to the heart of I don't think they actually want to. They don't. I don't think they believe they're going to actually convict him.
I think they.
I think they. I
That's where I
think this is.
disagree. I think they.
I think
do.
this is
For the
really
jury
no.
pool
I don't think
alone.
that's their strategy. I think they look. Fort Bragg wants to get further his political career.
Oh, have you heard the Twinkies jokes about him?
No.
So he's one of these Soros DAs who's like really
Oh, yeah.
soft on crime. It was actually quite moving. On Fox News the other night, they had a panel, and one of them was this was this African American lady from, I think it was the Bronx, somewhere in New York, and her son was murdered in some whatever it was, but he was murdered, right? And
Mm.
Alvin Bragg dropped the charges against the potential killers of her son. And she said that all of a sudden he wants to be basically he wants to be Mr. Big Dick and look hard about Donald Trump. But basically any other crime in New York, he will do nothing about. You know?
Mm.
Murder, rape, armed robbery, drug dealing.
Doesn't that defeat the purpose of being a DA?
Basically, that's another line of these Soros books. But anyway, someone saw that and they went
You
Alvin
can't
Bragg.
say Soros on a
Uh,
podcast. It's not allowed.
Yeah, okay. I've read some of his history, but
Uh,
they were just like Alvin Bragg, soft on crime, hard on Twinkies.
mm. He is a portly fellow.
Well, I'm also rather portly, but like, yeah,
Well, but he's shapes.
yeah.
Yeah. I still firmly believe that the actual grand Democratic strategy, and he's part of the grand strategy, which is he wants to further his career. Okay,
Of
and
course.
so
I mean, this
they
is what he
call out they
campaigned
get they get into the, as Hamilton would say, the room where it happens,
on.
right?
Yep.
And they go, hey, why don't you bring these charges? And the real strategy is we want this case to kind of, because one of the next date or something is like after a major election milestone. I forget what
Yeah,
it is,
whether it's the
but it's like it's
primaries or
very
something.
it's like
Yeah.
ridiculously far out, so that they can just loom this case over the
Yeah.
entire election process, and be able to say, well, you can't vote for Trump because you see, he could be a convicted criminal here. So, are you really
But that
gonna
is
vote
that
Biden? He's a saint. He's also dead. It's like,
yeah, but compare him to Joe Biden. I mean, and the
my,
Biden
but my
family.
yeah, but
Like,
my point.
come on.
Okay, but
Come on.
my point is they just want to use this to, one, bolster his base so that he does win, and they can use this against Trump in a general election.
See, I think you're right.
To get independence and everybody be like, oh yeah, we can't.
I think
At least Biden isn't a potentially convicted criminal,
well, yeah, of course.
and so then they win their reelection because they are deathly afraid of any of the other candidates from the Republican Party that look like they could win, like DeSantis or Nikki Haley, because those are actually competent, capable people who also can give back as much as they take.
Well, Trump had
And
competent
like,
areas of his
and
governance, but
and the Democrats
his
only have Biden.
personality
They literally have
blocked him.
nobody else that's remotely good to
See,
put up.
I agree with you. I think that is the number one aim of their plan.
Watch the charges
but
get dropped.
No, that's not going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
I don't think that's going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
I've gotten to the point where I really do not believe that I really think that the Democrats will stop at nothing to get Trump. I think yes, I think you're right. I think the most important aim of all of this, and not just in New York, but also the cases coming up in Atlanta and Washington D.C., which I'd like to touch on. Their main thing is to take him out for 2024, get Biden reelected. But
No, they
as a
want him
side,
to win the primaries.
well, yeah, that's my point. But he's going to win.
And
the
then in the
primaries.
general
But-
election,
but-
they
but-
use
but-
this.
Yes. But so the main aim is to take him out for the general election. But if they can also put him in prison, they would love to do that too.
I'm sure it's like, the frosting on a ho ho. Okay.
I think it's more than that.
In line with your Twinkie scenario.
I think it's the
But
cream filling.
no, it's not the cream filling.
It is.
No.
It is.
No.
Trust me. No.
It's the icing on top.
No,
It's the icing on top.
but they
The
won't
cream
stop.
filling
I mean,
is
would you have a donut without the
the
icing
cream
on top? Come
filling
on.
is getting Biden reelected so that all the people who are actually
Oh,
running
I
the
know.
country
Oh.
stay in power for 4 more years, so they can
Yeah,
continue the
but
destruction
guys,
of our country.
I have to say this to our audience. Like, seriously, do you really think this country and the world, honestly, can survive 4 more years of Joe Biden?
I think the world will survive, but the real question is, what
I'm
is
not
the
so
state? What
sure.
is the state of the world after 4 more
4
years
years of
of Joe
what? A
Biden?
nuclear wasteland.
Everybody, just FYI for anybody, around the world, and I have traveled and spoken with Europeans and Arabs. My girlfriend is an Arab, and we have met with Arabs, and when we've traveled to Europe, spoken with Europeans. So this is not just me saying arbitrary things. It's anecdotal. I'll give you that. But I've heard on a grander scale many people say this. Most people don't like Joe Biden, and a lot of people actually really liked Trump. Weirdly enough,
In the third world, yes. Outside of the Western world.
outside, but
Outside of
even
the
in,
Western world,
well,
I've
but
noticed.
okay, but yeah, Western Europe maybe not so much, but Central Eastern Europe, Middle East, places like this, they actually kind of, actually
Because Trump
they don't like Joe Biden.
because Trump is an
A
alpha
weak
male.
America under a zombie of a president
Yes.
does nothing for anybody.
Yes. And that there's nothing
Nobody
that,
wants the
there
guy
is
around.
no better representation of
But you
the
can't have the
decline.
president in the basement.
No, of the
I'm sorry, in
decline.
the bed,
there
asleep in
is
his bed.
there is no better representation of the decline of America than the presidency of Joe Biden.
He is the personification of. He is the. What did you just say?
He is the. He is the personification. There is no better representation of the decline
He
of
is
the
the
United States of America.
he is the
than Joe
personification
Biden.
of decline.
Yes,
He
absolutely.
literally is declining in mental acuity, health, and physical strength every single day. Have you seen his videos of him walking away?
Yes.
He was-
Did you?
or
did
him
you,
tripping up the stairs
did you see-
again
did
for
you
Air
s-
Force One?
Did you see
It's like, what is happening?
Did you see the video? And this is the biggest FU in politics. The fact that he took his son, Hunter Biden, on this Ancestry.com trip to fucking Ireland that we as taxpayers are paying for. And did you see that
What?
Hunter Biden is with him in Ireland?
They're just in Ireland?
Yes.
They're doing what?
They originally went there to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. And then he just spent another 5 or 6 days in Ireland, all paid for by the American taxpayer. Who's running the country? And secondly,
It's not Joe. It's not been Joe Biden.
and secondly,
Ever.
his son is under federal criminal investigation for, amongst many things, money laundering.
You gotta live it up.
tax
You gotta live it up before you
and
go to jail.
lying on his gun forms. But
What better place to go than in Ireland?
I saw this. There was this video of Joe Biden, and he was with like a group of kids out there in Ireland, and Hunter was just like pointing out this kid to this like little 7-year-old, can ask him a question, and the 7-year-old asked him, "What is the key to success?" And he thinks, "I think the key to success is for the world to be vaccinated." And like Hunter looked at him like, "Dad, I'm not sure that's what he meant." And then he was like, "Where am I?" And Hunter Biden had to fucking chaperone him back to the walk line. And it's just like, this is the president of the United States. It's an utter embarrassment. Really?
Yes, but the powers that be want it that way, so that the
Oh.
actual people running the country are all behind the scenes. He's just a dead figurehead.
Yes, of course.
It's
Of course.
it's really all it is.
And
It's really all it is.
and
The
see-
people who are actually running the country you don't know who they are. They're behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You don't know their names. They're the ones who are actually making decisions. They're just getting Joe Biden to write. They help him sign his name with no cameras or anything around, so you don't know what's actually going on.
And I have
That's
to
what's going on
ask-
in our country right now.
I have to
Now we
ask-
have all these major issues that are destroying the American family, basic biology,
Yes.
our education system,
Our
corrupting our
foreign
youth so that
policy
we're.
is completely being destroyed.
I mean, if
and
if a world
standing.
war were actually to occur and we needed to reenact the draft because it could, on the off chance it were to happen, who exactly are we drafting to go? Are we going to be drafting trans kids and women? I guarantee you that all of a sudden they're going to be absent or be fighting for their rights to not go, and it's going to be young boys who are basically pussy whipped.
And
Who are going to go and they're going to cuddle in a
But you know
in a
who's gonna have
bunker
to? You
somewhere.
know who's gonna have to bear the brunt of that? The white working class males that the woke military policies are completely alienating, and then they wonder why their recruitment is down by like 50%.
Yeah,
Like they're
all of that agenda around this trans rights and all this stuff is really I really believe it is a strategic attack and the best weapon they actually have right now for trying to destroy our country from the
oh,
inside.
absolutely,
Like this movement will just
absolutely.
not go
Away?
away.
No, it won't.
They
It won't.
won't go. And the funny thing is that then they complain that so much they complain that they're not getting attention. But then when you give them the attention and ask them questions, then they go, "Well, why do you care?" It's like I don't I no, I didn't care. You
You
are
have
the one
made me care.
you are literally yelling at me with a bullhorn in my face, telling me that you're a lady. But then when I ask you, what does that mean? How do you mean you're a lady when you have a penis? You go, well, I can't answer that question. Yeah. So that's what. That's all, folks.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all, folks. I mean, Porky Pig should come out, or the Kool Aid Man, like, hey, and just like hand them their papers. Like
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's just stupid. And really, what's a good way to bring it all back? What's a good way to continue the deterioration? Is not only to keep somebody who is deteriorating in the White House, but also to take down the bastion champion of the other side, which is unfortunate right now, Trump. I'd like it to be DeSantis, and
I agree with
he's a very
you.
close second,
I would
but
like it to
Trump is
be
still like
DeSantis
this.
too, but
Trump is still the guy wearing the boxing gloves, and DeSantis is in the corner going, "Hey, get in there, champ!" It's like,
well, I think I think Donald Trump is so driven by the fact that he knows just by his gut instinct that he was probably robbed in 2020. I personally think
his presidency was robbed, his
yeah, but
reelection
that's
was
the thing.
robbed.
That's the thing. They never,
All of it was.
they never ever accepted him.
I still have the belief
They never
that
accepted he won.
they never really and the media gave him free attention, thinking that everything he was saying was ridiculous and that people would find it funny. Like, oh, there's funny TV Trump saying some ridiculous stuff. This should get good ratings, not realizing the state and condition the country was actually in because of the Obama presidency. And they
Yes.
created a monster that he himself didn't even expect to win.
No, I don't think he did
His
either.
campaign managers are on record saying they were hoping to maybe come in second at best.
And get a new
At
TV
best.
deal out of it.
Yes. And then that's why Melania was so upset because he ended up like actually going through with like doing it. That's why she like cried or whatever the hell when he won because she was like, "You did not promise me this. You said we were going to get this." This is the worst Melania Trump impersonation ever, but you said we were going to only.
Yeah, she didn't want this.
She didn't want it. That's why she didn't do anything as a first lady. She didn't want any of that responsibility, any of that at all. And Trump only went through because he's got a massive ego. But here's, what. So I believe they fervently went after him so much because they created their own monster and they are now trying to bring down their monster because the monster is actually showcasing and highlighting their own discrepancy and
Yeah.
vileness and evil. And they have, for the longest period of time, wanting to mask that from the general public in the form of free shit.
Yes.
Free shit disguised as us controlling you
Yeah.
is really what it is. Really, the Democratic Party, in my opinion, is way worse than the Republican Party. It's just an opinion. People can disagree with me, and that's totally fine. There are good Democrats. I'm not saying there are not good. I guess I should amend my phrase by saying the Democrats that are in power now that are very leftist progressive are that way. There are good social, moderate, and or conservative Democrats that is still in the party.
Well, I
But
think
they have no way to counteract this progressive
yeah.
leftist movement because
They've,
they're basically being told to shut the fuck up.
yes. I think what happened. This is no longer This is no longer the Democratic Party of my parents and grandparents, of FDR, JFK, LBJ,
I don't even
even
think
Bill Clinton. This is now. This is. I'm sorry, and maybe it is my European life experience. This is a European Marxist Leninist Bolshevik Socialist Party in terms of the who leads this party now. It is no longer Bill. It's no longer the Clintonites. People voted for Joe
the
Biden.
average like
People
leadership of the Democrats is like what 80 years old.
no
It's
no
not
no no
really them. They're
no.
just figureheads.
It's the
It's the
root,
people underneath
the
them.
base of the party. That people voted for Joe Biden thinking they were going to get the Clinton of the '90s back, and instead what they
Oh,
got.
that's being very generous
But
too.
instead, what they got.
I think they just didn't want extreme shit happening all the time.
But instead, what they got was Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders won the ideological war inside the Democratic Party. He may
Yeah,
not
Bernie
be.
Sanders might actually be running a lot of shit
Yes,
behind the
yes,
scenes.
yes.
He's probably not. He's
This
probably not
every
100% running the show, but he's definitely in the
the
room with the
deal.
people who are making decisions.
The deal.
That's probably the
Yes,
deal they cut him.
yes. The deal that was made.
Give us your support. We'll put you in the room. We'll run with a lot of your ideas.
The deal.
Okay, I am okay with this. This is not a problem. As long as we get free healthcare and that the 1% pays their fair share that they need to do for the country, then I will happily stand down and bring my posse over to Joe Biden. Just to make sure that, as Hamilton said, that I am in the room where it happens.
Just don't look at my 3 lake houses in Vermont.
Yes, right, exactly.
But no, it's but no, that is exactly what happened in South Carolina when James Clyburn rescued Joe Biden's candidacy in February of 2020. They basically said, right, you're going to be the figurehead. You're going to talk about being a moderate. You're going to talk about bringing the country together, but you don't fucking mean a word of it. And you're going to say that this country's basically going to be the glorious Clinton years of the 90s. But really, Bernie's crowd, the squad, the socialists, their program is the program that you're going to be pushing through. And Biden was like,
Biden didn't say anything.
Biden was just
he
like,
doesn't even know where he is.
Biden was just standing there like,
is there ice cream?
Ice cream. And then Jill would
I like chocolate sprinkles.
But that was the deal.
Is there a youth around? I want to sniff their head.
That was the deal that was made.
Oh, 100% that's the deal that was made. And now the deal that they're trying to make is getting Trump indicted so that they can, 1, prop him up, and 2, use him to continue to have power. That's all this is about.
Yes.
And they want to continue these crazy. I mean, I know we did some shorts already about this date, but like some of these things happening, it's from corporations. It's like, does nobody have a pair of balls anymore?
No.
Nobody has any balls.
It's very interesting you say that because
what?
Okay.
Have
you heard about these? So, for example, have you heard about these DEI and ESG scores that are going around in corporate America right now?
Oh, I know very much about ESG. That's literally part of my job for compliance.
So basically, there's a lot of like these outside pressure groups for like the trans community and so forth, right? And it's basically kind of a shakedown. What they go to all these corporate boards, they go to them and say, okay, how many trans people do you have working here? How much trans representation do you have in your commercials? And if we give you a shitty score, we'll hit you with a lawsuit or we'll hit you with strikes or whatnot. So it's basically, that's why these corporate boards are caving. It's because they don't want to have to deal with the negative publicity. They don't want to have to deal.
Bud Light's dealing with way worse public publicity.
Yeah, but they didn't count that. But this is what makes it interesting. Okay, so just let me finish the thought. On their mind, they don't want to deal with bad publicity. They don't want to deal with lawsuits.
It's either this or the public.
Yes.
And what hopefully the public. This is a general theory I have. I truly believe that the 80%, the Pareto principle, 80-20, 80%, maybe it's even more, maybe it's 90%, 95% of America, which is just regular average folks, don't like anything that's actually happening right now. But probably a lot of people don't really know what to do.
Yes, absolutely.
So things are just happening. And these people continue to have this large voice because the much smaller percentage that are in the positions of power or in the media keep talking about it. And so if you think differently, you still are now afraid to say anything differently because of the potential repercussions, because of a very minority group that, again, apparently continue to claim that all they want to do is live and exist in the one country where you literally can do that
Yeah.
and just exist, but you keep yelling at the top of your lungs about it's also funny. I keep seeing like people on the streets. You see these people that talk about gay rights, and I'm like, what more rights do you guys want?
Yeah.
I'm like, what don't you have anymore?
You have
Now it's just
everything.
changed to
Yes.
LGBTQ rights because the gays and lesbian, they have full rights. They can get married. They can do. I mean, they have all the
They can raise
rights.
children. They
They
can own
can
a
do.
home. They can live, yeah,
You are the
openly.
same as everybody. You got what
Yes.
you wanted. And
Yeah.
guess what? We're
And God
leaving you
bless
the
ya.
fuck alone. We don't give a shit anymore. This was my position for the longest time. I thought the Republican Party going after gay marriage was dumb. It
Yes.
was like there's so many more important issues. This is a free country. If people are that way and they want to do it, who are you?
Cares.
Who cares? You live
Yeah.
your little Christian life the way you want to live it, and you'll either be saved by God or you won't. Like, let the other people do what the hell they want to do. It's their life. You only get one life that we're aware of. Fuck it. That was my position. But now it's transitioned from the gay rights to the trans rights, but it's a much stickier issue
Yeah.
for so many very, very important reasons. And these are the people that are leading the Democratic Party, trying to destroy America from the inside. This is why I think the Democrats are way more dangerous than the Republicans, because at least the
Yes.
Republicans still want an America.
Yeah.
They may not be doing enough to really save it, but the Democrats, the I don't want to say all Democrats because there are still good Democrats, in my opinion, in the party, but they're being pushed aside for
Yeah.
these crazy leftist progressives that are also the people that are supporting Bragg in indicting Trump
Yes.
because that is part of their agenda. It's almost like trying to put the court jester on trial is what they're trying to do.
Well, I would just like to correct.
And the for some reason, which I think is a mistake from the Republican Party, the Crown Prince savior who's going to attack this, very nefarious contingent coming from the enemy, if you will, the leftist Democrats, and it's all. If it weren't real life, I would seriously think this is a joke,
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe it still is a joke
But I would
because we're living it.
I would like to correct one thing because I feel I think it's very what's what I'm looking for. It's very apt to just call something as it is, all right? And the left have been very good with language for decades now. And that is when people say leftists or progressives, I feel that it's really important just to say it as it is. They're Marxists. Marxists have now taken over the leadership of the Democratic Party.
They're postmodernist, Marxist, Leninist, communists.
That is
Not
basically,
the best Jordan Peterson impression, but
but that is basically the
and
definition. But that is basically the definition of woke. What does woke mean? How do you define woke? Woke for me is the definition
when
of
you wake up.
the woke. For me, the definition of
Uh,
woke, and you can take this to the bank. This is the definition of woke. Woke means
be careful which bank you take it to. Don't go to SVB
yeah, or HSBC.
or Credit Suisse.
The definition of woke is simple. It is the weaponization of political correctness to push a uniquely American brand of Marxism. That Marxism that has been specifically tailored for American culture. That's all it is. And they're using they're using the weapon of political correctness to push it. So if you ever come back on them on anything like it or anything about it, they'll say, "What, are you being racist? You being transphobic? You being sexist?" No, I'm just being a normal guy who knows a man and who knows what a man is and who knows what a woman is. Okay? Because guess what? There is nothing wrong with just being normal. All right?
Wow. Truth of the century here.
There is
It
nothing
is.
wrong with
Oh
just
man.
being normal.
Wow.
And
The
the-
more you know.
and you have to start calling it for what it is. Okay? It's Marxism. Marxists now run the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders had
The
his
people we
honeymoon.
were in a cold war with for many years are
Yes.
now just in the country
running one of the two
running
major
shit.
parties. Bernie Sanders honeymooned in the Soviet Union. Bernie Sanders broke vodka with KGB guards. That would be the equivalent of someone in the 40s having a pint with SS guards. That's what the KGB was. That's who the NKVD, their predecessor in name, was. These are the people who ran the gulags. These are the people who executed 40,000 Polish officers and
But
captives.
hey, when you really get to know them, they're not such bad guys.
They're murderers!
They have
They're
families.
murderers!
They have things that they care about, just like you or I do. They only care about the well-being of their children and their family.
They're murderers!
Really,
They're
I met with Vlad and Pyotr, and they were good guys. They could drink a lot of vodka. I couldn't keep up with them, but they really are just people like you or I. Maybe they have killed thousands of people, but that is neither here nor there. They are not part of the 1%. They are going after the 1% so that they can help the actual 1% of the Soviet Union, which is a technicality that I don't want to get into right now. Please don't look into my 3 houses in Vermont.
And that, guys, I think is the perfect place to leave it. I am T.
Yeah, Justin.
The perfect place to
Trump
end it.
indictment. There it is.
Yeah.
We'll see how it continues.
And put it this way, there's going to be plenty more. So come back
Yeah.
to Men of the Times and we'll discuss it again.
Let us know your thoughts as well. Leave a comment on what you think about everything we've discussed. Do you agree? Do you disagree? We want to have open dialogue. That's who we are. We are Men of the Times. And we will see you next time.